Hello and welcome to What's Your Story. Thank you for joining us today. I have a great guest for you. His name is Mike Koch, and Mike is a hairdresser extraordinaire. So, Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I have to tell the audience a little bit of a story about why I found you and why I have you on the show.
Okay.
Because I went to this lady that had a great haircut. She was sitting next to me at an event, and she had this great haircut, and I said, "Where do you get your hair done?" Because you always want to find somebody who's got a great haircut if you need a haircut, and I did. So I went to her, and I asked her that, and she said, "Oh, Mike the hair god does my hair." And I said, "Oh, you mean Mike the hair guy?" She goes, "No,
Yeah.
Mike the hair god." I said, "Wait, that's pretty arrogant."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Well, I thought that too." She said, "I found him on Yelp, and it said Mike the hair god, and I thought if he could say that about himself, he must be really good, because
Yep.
otherwise people wouldn't do that." And she said, so I went to him. Well, she made the right choice, because
Obviously.
her hair was phenomenal.
Yeah, she's got pretty short hair, and a lot. I know her hair attracts a lot of attention. So when someone else who has short hair sees her hair, they want to go to her as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to go to this person. So she gave me the number. I called, I made an appointment, and I absolutely fell in love with you. So
I fell in love with you too.
You
So
did?
we had a
Really?
lot of good conversations. So
Yeah,
I think we hit it off pretty quickly.
yeah, we did,
And it was it's a weird connection. We can talk more about that in a second, but
Yeah.
it's just it's really cool.
It's really
really cool.
So tell us, where did this name, this label that you have, where did that come from?
So I used to call myself like some generic name, because I realized I had to brand myself, because I didn't want to just be Mike Koch or Michael Koch, hairstylist. Yeah. So there was this girl that came in, and I made her hair super blonde, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're like a hair god," and I was like, Oh my gosh, that's it. That's the name.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it, and it kind of just caught on, and a lot of people still, it's just kind of silly, but people see that name and they're like, this guy's got to be super egotistical or he's got to be good, but I'd rather go to someone or proud
maybe both.
Or maybe both. But then they see me and they're like, okay, this guy's kind of a jokester. But it does stick out. It sticks out to a lot of people.
Yes.
But yeah, I like it, and I've thought about changing it so many times, but people just know me as that,
Well,
so I can't
exactly.
switch it.
And it's interesting, because when people now say to me, "Where do you get your hair done?" and I say, "Mike the hair god,"
Yeah,
they go, "What?"
Exactly.
What? They always go, "What?"
Everyone does it, and even like when I'm out and some girls talking to me and I show them my card, they're like, "The hair god," and they always chuckle. So it's good.
Well, it's good. It's good branding,
it
because
is good
it gets
branding.
you attention, and people come to you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So when did you decide you wanted to be a hairdresser? I mean, you normally don't find big, tall, good-looking, straight men as hairdressers.
Yes. Yeah, so I think I was like 21, and I used to want to be a fireman. And I even went to school to, I took whatever classes you're supposed to take to be a fireman. I don't even know if you're supposed to take classes. But there was this guy, his name was Aaron Freeman. And he said, "Hey, Mike, I'm going to hair school. I'm going to be a hairstylist. You should become a hairstylist." And I'm like, "What? I don't want to be a hairstylist. Like, I'm a straight guy. I can't do hair. I don't know. It didn't make sense." And then my mom, she's like, "Michael, all the older women will love you." And she's like, "Plus your grandpa did hair."
Your mother's a hairstylist too.
No, she's not. No, she's more of like a homemaker, and she's had 7 kids. So I mean,
really? You got 6 brothers and sisters?
3 brothers, 3 sisters.
Wow,
big family. So.
Wow.
I'm the wild one. But
well, your grandfather was a hairstylist.
Yeah. So when my mom said, "Hey, you should do it like your grandpa did it," but it isn't blood. Like my mom was adopted, but still, he definitely cut our hair and stuff a few times when we were kids and stuff. So it kind of made me feel more okay with doing it, And so I went to school having no idea about hair, having no idea what I was doing. The first day in school, they said, "All right, we're going to style each other's hair." And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like what are we going to do? I never touched a blow dryer, never touched a flat iron. I didn't know what a flat iron was. And so I picked the girl with the shortest hair, and I grabbed some gel and I spiked her hair up, just straight up. And everyone was like, okay, whatever. And then like anytime they tried to get us to use hot tools or blow dryers or anything like that, I would just kind of skip over it. But then I had a rough time in school. I mean, I know I guess me being one of the only straight guys in the whole school of 300 women is it's not a rough time, I guess you could say, but it was hard to learn everything, like, because I didn't know what I was doing.
And there's a lot to it that people don't realize
There's
how
a lot
much
to
you
it.
have to study.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Because you have to study the hair and the
Yeah.
body and the food
Yeah.
and the nutrition and everything, right?
Yeah, and I was messing hair up a lot, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, how do I do this? And so I bought a bunch of doll heads, and I just, during the day, I just started cutting hair. I started cutting hair at home, just these doll heads. I mean, I had roommates that all thought I was crazy. But then I just fell in love with it, and then when I got out of school, I went to the salon in Las Vegas, down on the Strip, and over at Mandalay Bay, and I basically walked into the place and I said, hey, like, I need to get a job here, blah, blah, blah. They're like, okay, whatever. They always have tons of people coming. Then I went back to Utah, that's where I was going to school, and I told everyone that I already had the job. I'm like, oh, I have this job in Vegas, But I didn't have the job. So basically just like told everyone I did, and then when I came back, they finally told me I did, which was awesome. Which is kind of cool because, like I said, my grandpa, he, and like we had talked,
Your grandpa did my hair.
Exactly.
In the 1960s.
Exactly.
He was at the Sahara Hotel, and he was
know.
really, really well known in Vegas.
This is what a lot of people tell me.
Yeah.
Like, I've had quite a few people tell me that, and I remember at one of my salons, this woman, she said, why'd you get into hair? Kind of the same question you asked me. And I told her, oh, my grandpa did hair, kind of what I just said. And she's like, what's his name? So I said, Eddie Singer, or we call him Speedy Eddie. And so she's like, Mr. Edwards, your grandpa? And I kind of laughed, like, what are you talking about? She sat down, she's like, everyone wanted to go to him or work at his salon. Like it was very hard to get for a stylist to work there. And she's like, he had this special way of doing permanents or perms. But she's like, it wasn't really a trick, but he just said he had it. So it was kind of cool. And then a few days later, someone else came in and said, I heard Mr. Edwards' grandson works here. So it was kind of cool. It kind of like, I don't know.
Well, for those of us who've been around Vegas a very long time, I mean, he was a legend in the hair business. And so maybe you inherited a little bit of this
maybe I did.
Wonderful talent that he had.
Who knows?
But,
Who knows?
But we won't discount your own talent because you have studied, you've worked hard, and
I've tried.
And you've become really good.
Well,
I
thanks.
mean, you are a superstar in your own right.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I loved it because I'll never forget. I got to tell the audience, I went in to see him and I said, listen, the back of my hair is really terrible. I've been to, 15 or 20 different people.
Yeah.
And they always make me look kind of squared off,
Yeah.
And I said, can't you just do something about this? Can you just look at me and tell me when to come back and you'll do something? Yeah. And he just said, sit down right now, let's fix it. And he fixed it.
It was too blocky.
Yeah.
It was driving me crazy. I was like, I can't let her leave with this hair.
Go out of there looking like a fool.
And my other client was cool, so I was like, can you just wait like 5 minutes to kind of fix it up in the back? And yeah.
Oh, you saved me because it was bad, and I knew it was bad, but I couldn't find anybody that could fix it.
Yeah, happens because people will do a lot of times hairstylists, and I'm probably guilty of this sometimes too. But people come in, they say they want something, and you don't listen. You just kind of do what I think, and so I try to listen as best I can. Try to get in the woman's head. Yeah. As dangerous as that is.
So, who was your inspiration? Was your grandfather your inspiration?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, him, but I don't know. I think, I wanted to do something artistic. I think my dad was probably one of my inspirations, just like, because he was a go-getter, and I don't know. He had his own business. He's a lawyer, so I mean,
really?
So he has his own law firm, and I think just kind of, I don't know, that go-getter mentality, he kind of inspired me, and my grandpa too, obviously, but I was very young when he passed, so it was kind of hard to grab some of his hairdresser traits.
Yeah,
or whatever,
but it's kind of cool to know, oh, my grandfather was pretty well known as a hairdresser.
Yeah,
I can probably do that too.
It's really cool, and in my salon I have a picture of him on the wall and all that, and his old crimping irons.
Yeah, I think we have a picture we're going to show of your grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know.
Oh, that's right.
I know that people like me who've been around here a long time, you know, they want to see it. They
Yeah,
want to
of course.
go, oh, I know who
I know
he
that
is.
guy,
You
yeah.
know, yeah, he did
pretty
my
cool.
hair.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he did everybody who was anybody.
I've heard he did Elvis Presley's hair one time. That's what
Did
I
he
heard.
really?
That's what my mom told me.
Oh,
but
wow.
who
Wow.
knows?
Wow. So,
Anyway.
you got into this, what, about 14, 15 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2004. Yeah, 2004 to 2005, and then kind of just this was during the recession, and it was tough, but it was fun. Yeah, and so that's kind of when I got into it, and
Yeah. So when
still
you were
going.
you were young, handsome, good-looking hairdresser, did you have all these girls who were hitting on you?
So when I was in my 20s, I had lots of women coming in, and a few women were like, I don't care if you mess my hair up, you know, and it kind of, now I'm 40, you know, now I have all this gray hair, so now I get a lot of women in their 50s and their 60s, you know, and all trying to, you know, flirt with me, because I think the thing, as you get older, especially as a woman, a lot of men don't pay attention to you as much, you know, so. Me, I love older women. I think women all have a certain beauty to them, you know, and I think a lot of people don't notice that. So that's one of my favorite things about my job is, you know, a woman will come in, they'll have a bad day, and I'm able to make you guys feel good, you know,
Yeah.
and you guys tell me all your little secrets and all the stories I've heard. I forget them all. It's like you can't really surprise me anymore. I have some pretty crazy stories too.
Well, you're very into positive mental attitude. I know you have
Yeah.
in your salon, you have posters on the wall, positive mental attitude.
Yep.
You do a lot of reading in that area as
Yeah.
well, don't you?
Yeah, because I mean I've struggled a lot with like mental health, you know, and I think a lot of people do. You know, a lot of people have depression, a lot of people have things like that, and so that's kind of how. And I know we've talked earlier kind of about art, and I know you do art a lot too, and so that is kind of one of the avenues and the reasons why I started doing my art, because I like to see happiness and prettiness around me. And so I started, like when I was a kid, I was in third grade. I didn't know I knew how to do art. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. And so the teacher was like, pretty much told me I was good and said, you need to draw this. And so I drew this drew this dog. This for this competition, this dog on fire running through the grass, and it said, don't be a hot dog, drop and roll. So I won this competition.
Stop, drop, and roll. I love it.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. So I won this competition. I was like, oh, art is cool, you know, whatever. And I forgot about it. Didn't think about it for a while. And then one day, one of my, during the pandemic, one of my friends came over to my house. She said, hey, do you want to paint with me? And I said, of course, she's a beautiful girl. I'm like, what guy would not want to paint with this woman? You know, she came over in this little bikini, and I was like, this is the best day of my life. You know, and so we started painting on canvases and stuff, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. She's like, just go. There's no rules.
Just do it, yeah.
Just do it. And so I got a football, I got a pine cone and a peach that I found on the ground and just started dabbing it, and everyone's like, I love that painting. And so that kind of has helped me as an outlet, as kind of just I'll sit down and just paint, and it helps me feel better about myself. And so in my salon, I have a lot of my paintings up because I like to have, obviously me on the walls, but I like to have happiness around me, you know, and my mom always was like that. She's definitely one of my inspirations. My mom is she's always wearing bright colors. She's always wearing quotes all over the wall.
Your paintings are very bright. They have
Yes, and I love that.
Lighter bright light.
I like that. I don't know. I think I just like happiness, you know, and so I don't know. Because whenever I've had moments where I've had those depressive moments, and so when I look around and I see just bright, happy stuff, it's like, how can you be sad? How can you be sad? You know, so
exactly.
It's kind of helped me.
I teach at UNLV. I teach art there, and I'm surprised at the number of people that do come into class, and the first thing they say to me is, "I don't know how to paint." Well, that's why you're here.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Or they'll say, I can't even do a stick figure, and I'm like, well, good, because I don't want you painting stick figures.
Yes.
I want us to paint other things.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how many of them find peace and happiness in the painting.
Yeah,
because
completely.
I don't think you have to paint to make something look exactly like it is.
Not at
I
all.
believe you paint for your soul. You put that paint down, and however you put it down, it's yours, and it's
100%.
your creation, and you're creative, and not only are you creative as a hairdresser, you're creative as an artist. And I sometimes think people don't realize that hairdressing is an art.
Yes,
It is an art. It's another art form. You've got to be creative to do great hair.
Yeah, because sometimes you have to just go on a whim. You're like, oh, okay, I see this happening, or I don't know, this girl's face, I want this to look good on her face, you know, or I don't know. And I never thought of it like that ever until I started doing painting, and I was like, this goes hand in hand, because I started posting some of my paintings, and people were like, when did you learn to paint? And I said, I have no idea. Like, I've never done it before. I just started. And then people started buying my paintings, and I'm like, what? You want to buy my paintings? It was that imposter syndrome, you know, you don't think you're good enough. And I don't know, it's just kind of cool. So I think it's good to have multiple outlets, because I think if you just stay in one avenue, you'll get burnt out.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to have multiple things to do.
Yeah. And you meet different kinds of people.
100%.
You know, in the art world, there are so many incredible people.
That's what you're telling me. You got all these cute girls in your classes.
Yeah, boy,
so I got to go to some of your classes.
There's some gorgeous girls in my classes.
Yeah,
a couple
awesome.
of pretty good-looking men as well. Yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
I know you're not interested in the guys, but
Yeah,
there's
I
some
know.
that my audience might be. You know, there's
true.
some cool guys in my
That's
art
true.
classes as well. But you know, one of the things I love about the art people is they're competitive, but not in a nasty way. Artists encourage each other.
Yes.
I find that they always saying, you can do this, you can do this. Are hairdressers like that? Do they encourage each other to learn new styles and new things? And
I think some of them are. I mean, I think the majority of them are. They're willing to help. They're willing to show you. You know, one of my friends, Maurice, he showed me a lot of stuff. He has kind of a way of just being a punk about saying, you're doing this wrong right in front of my client.
Oh,
But he taught me a lot along the way. And then my friend Veronica, she works with me now. And she's always like, hey, well, she'll wait until the client leaves, you know, and like, hey, well, I really want to show you how to do this type of extension or something like that. And she actually makes me do it on her own hair. She's like, hey, when are we gonna curl my hair? Because curling is not my strong point. And so she's always like, come in, let me teach you how to do this. So it's basically just a matter of me wanting to do it.
yeah.
But yeah, hairstylists are very supportive of each other, I believe, because I mean, I think it's hard. You know, it's hard to be perfect all the time with everything, so it's good for people to kind of, you know, support each other and make people better. So.
I love extensions.
Yeah.
I love extensions for the fact that they can make my hair look fuller. I don't have any right now, you can see, but I love them, and I also occasionally like to have them so I have, you know, like long hair
so
looking cool.
like a mermaid.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. And so I went to this one hairdresser to have extensions put in, and she obviously didn't know what she was doing. And I came out with these like blonde stripes in my hair.
Yeah.
And the hairdresser next to her was trying to tell her, you know, that's not the way to do it, let me help you. And anyway, it just turned into a disaster, and I had to go somewhere else and have them taken out.
So you had ordered the extensions through her, or did she just have them there?
No, I had ordered them.
Oh,
you know.
okay. Gotcha.
And that's a good point. If you put extensions in, do you order them ahead of time? Make sure they're the right color.
Yeah. So what I do is I'll go with my clients to the store, to the place where they sell extensions, and I'll try to match it up. Try to see, okay, is this right for her hair? Does this make sense? Because I don't want like sometimes I'll order stuff online, but that's sometimes. I just don't like it to be a surprise. And so I like to go with you guys, make sure it's the right hair, so you guys kind of have a little bit more knowledge about what's going on in your head, and not just like, taking a chance, and then we get in the salon and you're like, what is this going on in my hair? So, and then you guys feel more comfortable too, so that's what I like to do.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely love what you did with my hair, because it's so easy for me to do now.
Good.
You know, that's what's really cool.
Good.
Yeah, and I've got to have you do the color, because I did the color myself. I told you
It looks good,
that's
though. I
the
think it looks good.
first time in my life I've ever colored my hair, and I just
you did a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was so disgusted with going places and people, you know, I would say, my hair's red, it's been red my whole life, and I would say, I want it to be darker, and then they'd do dark brown, you know, and I'd say, no, I wanted darker red. Well, you didn't tell me you wanted darker red. So how important is it to communicate well with your hairdresser?
I mean, I've had some situations where I haven't been perfect, you know, especially if you get too comfortable with the client. That is that can be a problem where if the client comes in and they're doing the same thing all the time, and all of a sudden you come in, you're like, hey, I want to go darker. You're like, I don't know what she was going through that day. I have no idea. And so I try not to be mean about what other stylists have done, because I'm not perfect. You know, I've had situations where there was one time this girl came in and she brought in this picture of Kim Kardashian, and in the picture the sun was hitting her on the right side of her head, and so this side looks blonde, this side looks brown. So she said, oh, I want this picture. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the blonde side. So I start making her hair blonde. But she wanted the other side. And so at the end, she's like, Mike, what do you do? This looks nothing like the picture. I'm like, it looks exactly like the picture. So then she came back. I fixed it again. We didn't communicate again. And it was still wrong. And so that was a really bad communicating error on my part. And so I try to be the best that I can without being too just comfortable with the client, you know, and I never want you guys to just be scared to say something to me if you want to communicate something to me and not just do the same thing every time, you know. So it's super important, because women have a very, they want to see something a certain way to make them feel pretty. And so if I have some view of whatever, I want us to be on the same page, basically. Yeah.
Right.
So communication is super important.
Right.
In my opinion.
When I was in South Africa, I had really long hair, and I went into a hairstylist and I said, cut it off. Just cut it short, make it stylish, just cut it off. And she did.
Right away?
She just whacked it off, right? But the cool thing about it was, about 2 days after I went in, she called me at home and she said, I'm just calling to see if you're happy with your hair. That's the first time I'd ever had a hairdresser call and say, I'm calling to see how you are with your hair.
That's awesome.
And I was like, yeah, I love it.
Well, because that's a big change. Usually when a woman comes in and they say that, when they're like, hey, I want to chop all my hair off, I'm like, what's going on in your life? Are you okay? Are you, or if a girl wants bangs, I always say, why are you wanting bangs? Like, did you just have a breakup? Did you have whatever? Or they'll start crying, you know, or something like that. Yeah. So that's smart of her to ask if you were okay, or if you liked what you were seeing. Or
I just loved it. I thought, what great customer service. She called to see if I was happy. Now I've gone to other hairdressers that I've gone in and I've gone, cut it off, and they say no.
Yeah.
I know you're going to bitch and moan and holler because you hate your hair in a week, so we're not cutting it off, you know.
It depends. I talk girls out of it sometimes. Or else, like if girls get extensions, then they're like, you know what, I want to cut this short. I'm like, you know what, let's wait at least 5 days. Like, go home, see if you like it. If you want to cut it more, just come back. I won't charge you more, but I just want to see if you just spent all this money on your hair. So I always want to make sure if that's really what they want to do. If it's not some man who's made them cry that day, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, my husband used to make me cry about my hair.
A lot of men do that, you know.
Yeah, why did they do that? I don't know. We'd get all ready to go out somewhere, and we'd be starting out the door, and he'd go, you're not going to wear your hair like that, are you? I mean, we're already out the door.
Yeah.
You know, why didn't you say that an hour ago while I could do something about it? So now all night I'm uncomfortable because the hair's bad, you know. But see, now I have a lot more confidence. All these years later, I might even go out with it looking bad and not even worry about it, you know. But it doesn't look bad that often, especially now that you cut it.
You were walking around with your hair bad in the back for a while, and you didn't even know it.
I know. Well, I did know it, but nobody would fix it.
That's true.
Yeah, it wasn't until I got to you I got it fixed.
That's true.
And the other thing is the bangs, you know, like. I like bangs. I don't have to wear bangs. Sometimes I don't. But how do you decide who can wear bangs and who can't? You know, what hot hairstyle you're putting on people?
Usually I do you do your hair? Do you style your hair? Do you like to style your hair? If you don't like to style your hair, I will not give you bangs, because you have to style your hair every day. And a lot of times it depends on the girl's forehead. If the girl's forehead's too small, because if a girl has a forehead about this big, and you try to give her bangs, now she's got little pieces of hair like that sticking down. So it just depends, you know. And
before long, you're going back here and cutting them to come down.
And it's happened before, you know. So you got to be careful. But I mean, it just depends on their job, whoever they are. Like, I need to talk to them about it.
And how much time they're going to spend on their hair.
Yes, you know, exactly. Like if a kid wants bangs, if a mom comes in, she's like, hey, can you cut bangs on my little daughter? I'm like, does she style her hair? She's a little kid, her hair's going to be everywhere, like all the time. And this happened before, so.
Yeah, I think people don't realize sometimes if you have a cowlick or something, the hair just won't go in the bangs.
Yeah.
They just go every which direction.
Happens to the best of us.
We know, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Know. Well, boy, this has been fun having you on the show, and I
good
think
talking
for
to you.
people that are out there watching, they're probably absolutely loving finding out the little secrets behind the best hairdressers in the country.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, I love what I do. So
anything I missed that you want me to tell the audience about you? Well, of course, where you are and how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, so I'm over on Charleston and Wallapai, a place called Studio Salons. Been there about a year, have my own room set up in there, and it's I love it because it's just very comfortable. Have my own sink in there, so you guys can come in and tell me all your little secrets. And I can tell you, and I'm very open about my life. So, and the reason I do that is because I like people to know that they can tell me things. I've told you a lot about myself, and so it makes people feel more comtable.
Yeah.
Just
and what I like about you, you don't share what we tell you with other people.
No, I've learned that the hard way. I'll tell that story. I had a guy come in. I won't get into the details of it, but a guy came in. He had 2 girlfriends, and one girl in California, one girl in Vegas, and he got one girl in California pregnant, and this is about 12 years ago, and I went out, had some drinks with the girl that lived here, and she was talking about how much she didn't like the guy and da-da-da. And then I said, well, I don't understand why you're with him. And she's like, well, why? Why do you say that? And I said, because the girl in California is pregnant. I just told her. And it was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. The guy started threatening my life, and I realized I was like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever. So I don't tell people stuff. Like if you come in and you're like, oh, I hate John, then John comes in, I'm like, hey John, how are you? And I'm like, you're awesome.
Yeah, we keep our mouths shut.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would say, don't send me your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Just you come to me, and we'll just keep it at that. So then we can keep all our secrets with us.
Yeah, I made that I probably shouldn't be telling this, but I made it with one of our other show hosts here. He, I didn't realize he had more than one girlfriend, and he called me from an event where he was with a girlfriend, and then another day later he called me and asked me to talk to his girlfriend about something, and I said, oh, how did the blah 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 event go? And he goes, oh, you mean when I was at and he made it this whole
that's
story.
His fault, though.
Yeah.
That's his fault.
Well, I should have kept my mouth shut.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great fun.
Yeah,
Thank you
awesome.
so much for being here today. And
thanks for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us today. And I hope you'll come back with us next week for another exciting adventure and learning about what's my story with people, not my story, but their story. And I'd like to know about your story. If you're ever interested in being on the show, please let me know.